Today I'm going to talk to you about clutch pedals. Now you may be aware that I make the brackets for putting a clutch pedal into a ZJ. That is a factory reproduction bracket where basically everything is exactly the same as the factory did in the first few early manual transmission models, except added a switch to trigger the switch for the computer so that you can tell whether you're in a gear or in neutral, and you do that with the clutch pedal. Now, I have been doing this for a number of years, and usually I use a Wrangler pedal that I modify to work in this bracket. And I just got a batch in of Wrangler pedals, and I had all sorts of problems with them. So I'm going to tell you what the problems are and then the solutions, so if you run into these problems, you'll have a way around them. Now the first problem I had that was real obvious, they were worn out. They didn't show it in the pictures when I bought them, but I don't know if you can see that there. That pin, which is what is used to push the master cylinder for the clutch, is completely worn out. There's almost nothing to it. So that's not usable. So what I'm going to do is replace those. Now I was going to have a completely new pin made. Then I came up with another idea. When I buy these clutch brackets from a TJ, they come with the clutch and brake pedal as an assembly. Now with the brake pedal, the pedal's completely misoriented, the pin's in the wrong spot, you have a number of different issues. But the pin is almost identical. So what I did is I cut out the pin from the brake pedal and welded it in place of the one on the clutch pedal. Now I'll show you the steps to do that next. Now I'm going to show you how to replace a worn out clutch pin with one from a brake pedal. Now this is TJ Wrangler stuff. You can see there's a big divot where that pin is completely worn out. What happened is the bushing fell out, someone kept driving it, and it was just metal on metal for years. So that's no good. We're going to go ahead and cut this pin out. Now these are pressed in place, they're pressed in, riveted in the back side, and the holes they go in are not straight. So you can only cut these on one side. Luckily it's the side we need. On the clutch pedal, you cut off this pin and drive it out that way. On the brake pedal, you cut off the formed head and drive it out that way, which saves the pin. So that's good. Now let's get to it. So you grind that flush, then tap it out. Easy as that. And again, this side, cut the formed head on the brake pedal. Save that pin. Be a little careful so I don't send it flying across the shop floor. There she is. That's the pin you need. This part, we have our clutch pedal with the pin removed. We have our brake pedal pin taken from the brake pedal. If you forget which pedal is which because you're working around your shop and you just took out all your pins, the clutch pedal has two holes in it. The brake pedal only has one. And the pin goes in the upper hole. So the brake pedal one doesn't even have the hole that the clutch pedal one needs. Now the other thing you'll notice is that does not fit. These start off as around a 1/2 inch and then they get squished so they get a little bigger. That hole is smaller than that, so I'm going to drill out the hole to a 1/2 inch. I am going to turn off the squish diameter here with a lathe. That way it'll fit real tightly. If you don't have access to a lathe and doing this at home, you can drill that hole a little bigger, probably 9/16 will fit everything. And just make sure you get a good weld on there and you should be fine. But I'm going to get a real tight fit on this one. Now, we're going to drill it out with the drill press Then I'll turn this sucker down. Now the pin mostly fits. I'll turn down that diameter just a little bit more. Now we have the pin pressed in place. I'm going to weld the back side, but before I do that, I include these instructions with each bracket, which shows how to modify the TJ pedal. Make sure the pin's sticking out the right side. If you weld it in the wrong side, it's not going to be fun. And you have this. This is one I've done already. This is the one I'm going to be testing in my current manual transmission conversion project, the one with the V8 97 Limited that's getting a NV 3500. Now for comparison, this is the pedal from a Wrangler, modified and ready to go. You can see the pin is slightly different. The shank, what actually actuates the clutch master cylinder, is identical. The way it holds on is different. Now in a different video I've already showed you how that Wrangler pedal has a clip. On the brake pedal on the ZJs, they use a different one. They use a clip like this. And they use a bushing like this. And usually you get this with a replacement master cylinder. So if you're buying a master cylinder for your ZJ, you'll have one of these. That slips right on there. And then the clip goes across it. Clip. And there's a little metal tab that keeps that from coming loose. So functionally it'll work the same as the Wrangler pedal, but the one with the modified brake pedal pin just uses a different clip. So problem solved. Also, I've noticed that none of the brake pedal pins were worn out at all. All the clutch pedal ones were, none of the brake pedal ones. Leads me to believe this is a better design, because you usually use your brakes a lot more than your clutch. So that pedal's gotten a lot of use on it in that vehicle, and it's not worn out. So this might be a better way to go, but it's more work. So it's a matter of what you want to do. Or if you get one worn out, there's nothing you can do. You got to switch them around, because using that just isn't worth it. Now the other problem I ran into was the way the pedals pivot. Now these were labeled. Luckily the seller I got them from had them all tagged as what they came from. They're all from 97 TJs. Now, I've been buying them for years and never ran into this. Normally what I run into, have bushings on either side, a sleeve, just a piece of tubing that goes through it, then a long bolt that goes all the way through the clutch and the brake pedal. And that gets tightened down, and the sleeve takes up the space. You can see it there, the sleeve actually protrudes a little bit, gives some room for that bushing to have some clearance. And on the TJ, it's all one bolt holding everything together. On the ZJ, there are two separate brackets. And right here I have a bracket. This one this is cut down from the Wrangler. From the TJ, they actually stick out a bit on either end. Just trim off the ends, you're good there. I include instructions with every one. But, pop this in place. I also weld the nut on the back side, so that way you don't have to get a wrench in there, because it is tight when you get under the dash. I hate working under the dashboards. Now once it's mounted in there, because of the extra length of the sleeve, you're going to have the bolt tightened down, the sides are going to be held tight against that sleeve, yet the pedal will still move freely, so that's what keeps it working smoothly. That sleeve is critical for this because that's what gives the space for the sides of the bearings and makes everything work smoothly. Now, the problem I ran into with the 97s is rather than a bolt and sleeve, they used one big fat bolt. And that just went right into the bushings, no sleeve at all. This just compressed against the end of the bracket and everything sort of flopped around in there. It looks like they figured out that was a bad idea and redesigned it pretty quickly, but it looks like there are some out there that do not have a sleeve. They have this big bolt. That big bolt means that when you get your used pedal, you don't have the sleeve that you need for your ZJ conversion. If you run into this, let me know. I made extra of these sleeves. I'll get one to you. The rest of the pedal's the same. I already supply a bolt with a bracket that's going to work with that sleeve. So all you need is the sleeve. If you have tubing lying around, you can make one pretty quick and easy. Like I said, if you don't, let me know. I can get one to you. We have the pin problem solved with the brake pedal pin. We have the bolt problem solved and the lack of sleeve with replacing the sleeve as needed. The next problem I ran into is clearance. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this sleeve is not welded straight into this part. They're at an angle, which means I ran into some rubbing problems with that additional switch. Let me show you what we got there. We'll go put it back together again. Alright, like I said, I've had a lot of these. Prior to these 97 pedals, this has never been an issue. I've never had a problem with the clearance from that bolt head to the pedal. But in these 97s, it hits right there. It'll move through it, but it rubs on it, and we don't want that. Now, you want this switch because that is what tricks the automatic transmission computer into letting you start it and using cruise control. So you want that there. You could grind down the head of the bolt if you run into this. The other thing I did is I found where it actually hit. Let me show you that. You can see the actual rubbing spot highlighted in this old rusted pedal. So that is exactly where you have some rubbing. If you have that, you could just take a grinder and put a notch in it. That's what I did for these. I went ahead, I used a milling machine, cut a little notch right there, works perfect, no problem. I also took a little bit off this top edge just to make sure there wasn't a problem with the bottom bolt. Because like I said, these things on these 97s are all over the place as far as their position. So a little bit of grinding won't hurt anything and give yourself a little clearance. Or like I said, take the top of the bolt out. If neither of those solves your problem, let me know and I will find you a solution. Because it looks like there's some manufacturing variances in the TJs. So I've only run into some of them. They made a lot of them. So I haven't run into every possible scenario yet. But as I run into problems, I will find a solution for them and let you know.